Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah, in today's talk about the life of Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu an, we will talk about his life in society. Last week we talked about how he was taking care of the affairs in the marketplace. Plus, we talked about what are the measures that he undertook to make sure that the thoughts of the society are intact according to Islam, and also how he was making sure that the concepts of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar were in place. Today, we'll talk about something which is, we probably hear a lot. Whenever we talk about life of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, we hear about that, which was how he used to patrol during the night time. Meaning, he used to go out on the streets of the Medina and to make sure how the people were living in Medina. That's one aspect, and if the time permits, we'll talk about very briefly about his kindness and compassion towards animals as well. So there are a few stories that we'll talk about, but before we go into that, it's important to understand why Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was so adamant and so careful about walking in the streets of the Medina, so he knows how the people were living. Why? What was the driving factor? It's important to understand, because at the end of the day, the purpose is not just to read the stories and feel, alhamdulillah, our ancestors, we belong to the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these are the kind of people we had. Yes, we want to appreciate that. At the same time, we want to know why they acted like that and why we are not acting like that. This is the key thing at the end of the day. So there are many actually hadith and ayat that pushes us and tells us that we have to act like that, like the hadith of Rasulullah, which is reported by both Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, meaning the hadith is muttafaqun alayh. A hadith which is reported by both, we call it muttafaq alayh, they both agreed upon it. And this is a famous hadith which is reported by Ibn Umar radiyallahu an, the son of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu an. He said, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Every one of you is a, if you want to just linguistic translation, is a shepherd, and he is accountable for his herd. What means by that is every one of you is responsible about what is he responsible about? Whatever his subject is. And the hadith goes on that there are different hadith actually. One of them talks about that the Imam is the Ra'i over the Muslim Ummah, and he is a caretaker. He is a masul over them. And then he goes on and talks about the man is also a caretaker of his family, woman is a caretaker of the house of her husband, and the khadim or the servant is a caretaker of his sayyid or his master, the one he's working for, and he is accountable for whatever he is the one who's guarding, what is guarding or responsible of. So Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was very careful, he was very watchful of his actions, that he is a caretaker over the whole ummah. Hence, he has to know what he is accountable for, so he take care of them. That's one aspect. Also, and we will see that in some of the stories, there is a concept which is mentioned in the Quran that says, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَزِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. That what means by that is no one is accountable for, or no soul is burdened with sin will bear by the burden of the another one. Meaning, whatever somebody does, he is accountable for that. The others are not accountable for that. Okay? Or nobody will take the burden on the day of judgment of the actions of the others. Okay? Now, so this is another aspect that shows in the life of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, how he was dealing with the people. And one key aspect which we as Muslims all are aware of, we should be aware of it, that we are all accountable for our actions. What it means by that is any action that we undertake, we should know what is the ruling regarding that action. The hukam shari for an action must be known. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَوَرَبِّكَ لَنَسْأَلَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. That by your Rabb, Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we shall certainly call of them to account about what they used to do. So whatever human beings are doing, they will be accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, if you're accountable, accountability based on something. So accountability is based on if the action is done according to commands of Allah, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning you end up displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the core concepts around which we see how Umar was so watchful of his actions. He himself once asked a Sahabi, what is taqwa? And he was told, taqwa, it was asked, have you ever walked on a path that has thorns around you, or bushes with the thorns? He said, yes. He said, how do you walk? He said, you make sure you take care of your sleeves or your clothes or your cloak, whatever you're wearing, you make sure you don't get stuck with any of those thorns. So he said, that's taqwa. Meaning, you live your life being very watchful of what you're doing, the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This taqwa is the key thing for not only for the people who are or the subject under the rulers, but for the rulers themselves as well. So taqwa is the key thing that distinguishes us from everything else. Okay, so this is what we see in the lives of the Sahaba, that they were so watchful, they had the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always in their mind. Now, talking about he used to walk in the streets of the Medina during the night time, and he used to have his freed slave, his name was Aslam, along with him. And many of the incidents that have been mentioned about Umar ibn Khattab, of while he was walking, Aslam was with him. So we'll keep this in mind, that he was with him, and sometimes he used to take Abdurrahman bin Auf, radiallahu anh. Look, Abdurrahman bin Auf, you're talking about, in today's time, think of it as Elon Musk, or this Bill Gates, or all these rich billionaires, or if you're talking about from India, Ambani family, or them. Think about them. These are the people who would walk during the night time with the ruler to make sure that the poor's needs are fulfilled. Which one of you see that? None, never. As a matter of fact, you would not even see them among the people. Normal people don't even have access to see them. And look at this Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu an, not only he himself, the ruler of the whole Muslim Ummah, a state at that time, such a big state spread over two continents already at that time. Not only that he himself walking in the street of Medina, but along with him, another person, one of the richest people, Abdurrahman bin Auf, he used to walk with him. And then also a freed slave. So you see all sorts of extremes. One of the poorest people you can see with him, or one of the richest people also with him, and the most powerful person on the earth at that time, himself, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh. He's walking in the streets of the Medina. Why? That's the same fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the accountability, sense of accountability, that we are accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the taqwa, or that we are accountable. Allah has given us a task we will be questioned about. That's the thing that pushed Umar radiallahu anh to walk in the streets of the Medina to find out how the people were living. See that's the key thing, and this is why we have to keep this in mind when we are looking for Islam to be implemented on a state level, and we look for the leaders. It's not that we are just looking for the people; we're looking for the system itself also. But both have to be there. There have to be the people who rule over the Muslim Ummah, the one who have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the taqwa that will push them to implement the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best possible manner within the human way. Okay, so Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, That's why he was doing this. Now, moving to some of the examples. This example is one time Umar bin Khattab was with Aslam. As I mentioned, he was a free slave of Umar bin Khattab himself. So some merchants came to Medina and they were camped in the prayer place. And Umar said to Abdurrahman bin Auf, shall we go and guard them? So this is what he used to do. This is why another reason he would do. One, if there's some people out there, they need some help to guard them, for example, to make sure during the nighttime, daytime, there are people who are watchful of each other. And during the nighttime, there's more chances of shayateen to be out to move the people and doing the wrong things. So Umar Khattab, during the nighttime, he used to go and walk in the streets of Medina to make sure the safety is there. And it's not only him, actually. You will find, besides that, before him, the time of Abu Bakr also, there are people who are assigned during nighttime to walk in the streets of Medina. Umar took this task to himself, and he started doing himself. And hence the whole concept of policing came from here also, to have the police in the state to protect the people, not to hurt the people. Unfortunately, nowadays, many places, it becomes the other way around. But so Umar was there. So he said, let's go and guard them. So while they were guarding the nighttime, they prayed. Umar heard a child crying. He went, told the mother, take care of the child. And he moved away. After a little bit, the child was crying again and again. So he went, why don't you take care of this child? The child is crying. And she said she was trying to wean the child. The child will not be nursed from the mother. She's off the mother's milk. So now she said, because Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, Amir al-Mu'mineen, that she did not know she's talking to Umar bin Khattab. So she said that Umar had allocated a stipend to every child who was weaned. While it's on the mother's milk, they're not getting the stipend. When they're weaned, so she's trying to wean them off. Wean the child off so she will get the stipend. She's not giving the milk to the kid. So he asked, how old is the son of yours? She said, so much, whatever number of months. So he said, woe to you, do not hasten to wean him. And then when he was praying Fajr next morning, he was crying during the Salah. While he's reciting the Quran, he was crying. Why? Because he said to the people later on, woe to the Umar, how many of Muslim children he has killed. How many Muslim children were killed because of the mothers are not nursing them. They want to wean them off so they can get the stipend. And then he ordered, he said, do not hasten to wean your children, for we will give a stipend to every child born in Islam. And he wrote instructions to that effect to all the regions. Similarly, we find another story of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, which is about the Mujahideen, the one who were in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they used to go and they fight. Now, obviously, some of them, they stayed longer period of time out there. So while he was walking in the streets of Medina, he heard a woman, she was saying a poetry. And the words of the poetry, the meaning was, this night is too long and I cannot go to sleep, for I have no one to sleep with. She is missing her husband. Okay. And she said, oh Allah, were it not for Allah, I would have made this bed shake. So only thing that was preventing her to commit a haram was the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But she was saying certain words. And Umar said, may Allah have mercy on you. Then he sent some clothing and money. And I wrote a letter telling her husband to come to her. So he took care of individual like that. But there's a report that talks about that he went back to his daughter, Hafsa radiallahu anha, the one of the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he asked her that how long a woman can hold off while the husband is away. And she said that she can put up with a month or 2 months or 3 months. But the 4th month, she will start losing patience. That's talking about the women. So now Umar made a rule that the limit for a soldier to be away from the family was 4 months. After that, it was a must for him to come back. And if he's not coming back, then he has to take care of the family somehow. The needs have to be taken care of. So he is making sure that they come back. Because Sahaba, at that time, they were so much into this that they want to fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they were so much energetic that they wanted to spread the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he made sure that this happens. There's other stories about the same thing about some of the wives, and he was walking in the streets of the Medina, and he heard a woman saying another kind of a poetry. The meaning was that, is there any way to get some wine and drink it? Is there any way to reach Nasr bin Hajjaj? So there was a handsome guy in Medina, okay? And that's what she's talking about, because she is alone for a long period of time. Now, of course, later on, she wrote another poetry to clarify it to Umar. When she's using in poetry the word wine, she meant milk. When she's talking about Nasr bin Hajjaj, she's not referring to commit a haram. She is just letting it out that she is in need. So Umar bin Khattab made sure that number one, he asked, okay, bring Nasr bin Hajjaj first. Who's this guy? They brought him in. He's one of the most handsome guys in Medina. So he said, okay, he is causing fitna now. People are out, the mujahideen are out. Some guys, he's staying behind, and he's causing fitna. So he said, okay, this guy, shave his head off. They shaved his head off. He looks more handsome now. So there's a more problem now. He said, okay, put the turban on his head. They put the turban, he looks more handsome. So the problem is becoming bigger and bigger for him. So he said, okay, then send him out, send him away. He has to go leave Medina then. Why? It's not that he sent him to Basra. Basra was a place, there were too many soldiers were already there. So he will learn to be along with the soldiers, and he will be motivated to go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So it was not that he was thinking of that only that because she did some poetry, so the guy is the one who's getting the punishment. No, he wanted him to be pushed because he wanted to make sure that it will not be like he stays between the women and he's not doing the manly jobs. So that's one of the key reasons that he was sent out. And similarly, there was another cousins of his had a similar story, by the way. Abu Zuhaib. Abu Zuhaib had a similar story, and he kicked him out as well. And he told them, okay, you go live with your cousin also. So he was sent also over there. Both of them were from Banu Sulaim, and Umar Khattab sent them there. Now, another story I like to mention, and this is a very important story for me. Whenever I read that, it reminds me how watchful Umar Khattab was about his actions, that he was careful of every individual under him. It was not unlike current society and current systems in the world, man-made systems, even when they try to solve the problems, they think of solving the problem in a manner that, okay, there's a problem that exists. For example, people are hungry. There are, let's say, 10,000 people live in a small community. Then we have to have enough food supplies and clothing for 10,000 people. They will not. I'm talking about the one who are really want to even take care of the people. That's another separate issue. They don't even think about that to take care of all 10,000. So they will increase the demand, the supply. But when it comes to the distribution of the supplies among the people, you don't find that 10,000, whatever was the clothing or the shelter or the food, that reached to all 10,000 or whatever people they are there in a locality where our community. The one who have more power, the one who is more richer or rich, he will take bulk of the resources, and the poor suffers. That's the norm happens. Even though somebody is trying to think of that way, that they're trying to solve the problem. Now, what happens out of that is, again, the rich and the powerful, they abuse the weak and the poor. But Umar bin Khattab was worried about every individual because he understood it, that he's accountable for every subject under him. So the story I want to talk about is that he was again walking in the streets of Medina with Aslam. And while he was there, he said, Aslam mentions that I went with him in this area called Haratul Waqim. And when we were in Sarar, we saw a fire burning. And I said to, he said, "Oh Aslam," Umar said to Aslam, "I see here some travelers who are being held up by the night and cold. So let's go and see what's going on." So he went running, and when he came near to them, Aslam said, "We saw a woman, and there were some children. Children were crying." And Omar said to her, "Salam alaikum," and he called them as, instead of, even though it was a fire, he did not say Ahlul Nar, because Ahlul Nar would mean the people of the Nar, which could be Jahannam. So he called them Ahlul Daw, people of light, okay, because he had the fire over there. So he said, he replied, "Wa alaikum salam," and he said, "Can I come closer?" So her response, and this shows us how the society was. She said, "Come if you can do some good." Meaning, if you are coming with the bad intentions, you see a woman with the children in the nighttime, and you're coming closer for that, no, stay away. Otherwise, leave us alone, she said. Okay. So he came closer and said, "What is the matter with you? I mean, why this nighttime and you are, and it's a cold weather and the children are crying. So what's the matter with you? Why are they crying?" She said, "They are hungry." So he said, "Why? What's in the pot?" That she had the pot on the fire. What's in the pot? So she said, "It's water, and to calm them down until go to sleep. There's nothing else in it, it's just water." And she just heating it up so kids may think that the food is getting ready, and while they're waiting, they'll fall asleep. So he said, "May Allah have mercy on you. How could?" And she said, actually, he said, "Sorry, may Allah have mercy on you. How?" Let me take it back. So the food was cooking, and she said to water to calm them down until they go to sleep. And she said, "Allah will judge between us and Umar." Okay. Now, when she did that, she's talking to Umar Khattab. Now Umar gets confused that, why are you saying about Allah will judge between me and you, while Umar doesn't know? He said, "How would Umar know your situation, the situation you are in?" And her response was that when he took this position, now it's up to him to find out how we are living. It's not that every subject has to go to the leader and ask for help. It's other way around. You have taken the charge. You better know how the people are under you. So you are accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she actually said, Allah will decide between us and Umar that situation we are in. Umar, he really right away, that struck the nerve to him. And he went with Aslam back to Baitul Mal. He picked up some food, some oil and stuff like that, so he can provide some food. Now, when he went to Baitul Mal, he put that on his back. And Aslam said, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, let me help you out with that." And Umar's response was, "Will you carry my burden on the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection?" Meaning, this is his burden. He is the caretaker. He wants to carry this. And he took that food to the woman. And he said, he took some of it out and gave it to her and said, "Prepare it for me and I will cook it for you." And he started blowing beneath the pot. And he said that, Aslam said, I saw the smoke coming out through his beard. See, subhanAllah, how if you think about it, the way he was cooking, helping her out to cook the food, that even he's blowing the air, the air and the fire to make sure that the fire stays up and the food start cooking. And the beard was actually getting some of the smoke in it. Then he cooked it for her and brought it to her and said, "Bring me something." So she brought him a vessel and he poured it into and then said, "Feed them." And he said to feed them, and I will spread it out to cool down for them. And he stayed until they eaten their fill, and he left and the leftover food with her. He left the food, whatever the leftover was, with her. Now, and he said, say something good, and if you go to, she basically said, may Allah reward you with good. You are more suited to be the Khalifa than Amir al-Mu'mineen. She does not know the one she is dealing with was Umar al-Khattab, the Amir al-Mu'mineen. So she's telling him that you are more suited to be Amir al-Mu'mineen. So he said, say something good when you go to see the Amir al-Mu'mineen, and if you go to him, say something good, and you will find me there, inshallah. He still did not tell her that it is Amir al-Mu'mineen, because this is not. See, today you find a ruler, and if he, first of all, he will not be acting the way we talk about Khattab, that people don't know that this is the Amir al-Mu'mineen and he is going around, walking around to people, helping them out. But what we see today is what? If one of the leaders, he get a chance to go, let's say, take an example of Pakistan recently, what happened in Murray, right? We know about 23 people died because of suffocation in the severe weathers. There are many organizations and politicians or governors and all those people, they just go there and they try to have a photo op over there. Take a picture, make a video to show we were there to help the people out. And they want the whole world to know that they have done something. And look at Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. When she is actually holding Umar accountable, he's not telling it is Umar himself. When she's even telling him, you are more suited for this job than Umar al-Khattab, he's still not telling her that it is him, Amir al-Mu'mineen, who is there with her. And then, subhanAllah, anyways, he said, go there and talk to Amir al-Mu'mineen, say something good over there. Then he walked away, and from some distance, he was watching them. And he continued to walk, and he said, he asked first, is there anything else? But Umar said, and Aslam was asking. He did not answer anything. And he just wanted to look and make sure that the kids, they are well fed and they fall asleep. So at least that they are secure and their stomach is full. Another story, same way, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was patrolling in the streets of the Medina, and he saw a woman was crying, the sound of the cry of the woman. And when he got closer, he saw she was in the tent and the man was outside. He asked, what's going on? And the guy goes, this is not, first he said that I am one of the people of the desert who's here to collect the spoils of war from Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, Umar said, okay, but what is this noise that I hear from the tent? Because she's crying. And she was in labor pain. She was going to have a child. So he said, never mind. This is not of your concern. He's telling Umar al-Khattab, Amir al-Mu'mineen, this is not of your concern. Because he doesn't know it was Amir al-Mu'mineen. Umar said, but tell me, what's going on? Then he said, the woman is in labor pain. She's having a child. And he's just waiting for that, basically. So now Umar goes back to his house. And he talks to his wife, Kulthum bint Ali, radiallahu anhuma. And this is a very interesting way, the way he's talking to his wife. And this is a lesson for us also. When we interact with our wives and the children or whoever, right? To learn how he's talked to his wife. He said to her that, he said that would you like to collect some rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And see, he did not saying what the job was. He's saying, would you like to collect some reward? And she said, yes, if you want me to. If you like, I would like to go and help collect the rewards. So he said, okay, there's a woman who was in labor pain. Why don't you collect some clothing or towels or cream, whatever the needs, the things that you need for helping a woman with the birth of a child. So she took their stuff, and Umar carried some of the food stuff with him. And now he's walking and she's walking behind him, and they went to the tent, and then she goes inside to help the woman with the childbirth. And now Umar started helping the guy for cooking the food that the stuff brought with him. And while they were having that, now he hears the Kulthum radiallahu anha. She calls to Umar al-Khattab and she says, "O Amir al-Mu'minin, give your companion the glad tidings of a boy." Now, when this Bedouin, the Baddu, when he hears that she says Amir al-Mu'minin, so he's scared. He got scared that this is Amir al-Mu'minin that he's been with, the one who was telling this is not of your concern, go away. And now it's the same person is the one who is his wife. Today's time perspective, as people talk about first lady. Yeah, this is what they refer to, first lady. Today, the first lady is just out there for photo ops and wearing the most expensive clothing and that kind of stuff, or the most expensive purses or watches or the jewelry or whatsoever they wear, and that's all normally you find them doing, or give a talk here and there that has no connection to the real people. Now look at this first lady helping the woman to give birth, and for what? So she can collect some hasanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what I was trying to say in the beginning. So that's the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the reward and the accountability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that was the driving force for them. And that was the driving force for her as well. And then she says, Amir al-Mu'mineen, now he is scared. And then Umar said, stay where you are. And he took the pot, and the pot he was cooking with, and placed it by the door and said to his wife, let her eat her food, meaning give the food for the woman who just gave birth to a child. So she did that, and then she brought the pot out and placed it by the door, and Umar got up and took it and placed it in front of the man, and he said, eat. Woe to you, you have stayed up all night. Because he was the father. He stayed up all night. And then he said, tomorrow come to us and we will give you what you need. Because this guy, he found out it was Amir al-Mu'mineen, but a different way. Unlike, well, you can see, Umar was not trying to score points here by mentioning he is the Amir al-Mu'mineen. Rather, he is trying to score points in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the ajr for him only from Allah Azza wa Jal only. He's not asking for any kind of a reward for anybody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it seems like from the time perspective, we will not talk about the animals part, but I'll give you one more story about his walking in the street, and then inshallah we can probably close today's talk. Now, another story was Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an was walking in the streets of Medina with his slave Aslam again, and he got tired while patrolling in the streets. So what he did was he was resting on one of the walls. So while he was resting and his back was on the wall, he heard two women talking. One woman is the mother is talking to the daughter and telling her to dilute the milk with water. Add some water to the milk, basically, you will be able to make more money off of it, right? So, but she said, but Amir al-Mu'mineen said that we are not allowed, this is his decree, this is his command, that he said, it is not allowed to mix water with the milk. So the mother goes, neither Umar nor the people he sent the decree with are listening. Now, the response of the girl was that by Allah, I will not obey him in public and disobey him in private. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he heard this conversation. He asked to mark this house down, and in the daytime, because look, it is not as if he is doing the tajassus. He's not doing spying on the people. He overheard this conversation. So he said, okay, send some people in the morning and find out the situation of these women. That if they're single, they're married, what's the situation? So when he found out in the morning, he got the information in the morning that the girl and the mother was not married, divorced or widowed, but whichever way, and the girl was not. She was single as well. So now when Umar found out, Umar said to his sons, that does any one of you need a woman to marry? And he goes like this: if your father himself had energy to do so, he would have done. He's talking himself. But he's asking his sons because he found a righteous woman. He didn't want to let this chance go away from him. So Abdullah said, I have a wife. Abdurrahman said, I have a wife. Now Asim, the third son of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he said, I don't have a wife. So marry me. So now he sent for the girl and got married. So with Asim. Now one of the reports says this very same woman gave birth to another girl, and that girl gave birth to another girl, and she was the mother of Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu. And one report says she was the daughter, she was the granddaughter of Asim. One says great granddaughter, one says granddaughter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you look, Umar bin Abdul Aziz was such a huge, big personality, came out of this marriage. Even though it was to say it seems a very small thing, but that shows the character of a person who is who's conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who was a taqwa. So that girl who was refusing to mix water with the milk because she would be disobeying Amir al-Mu'mineen. And disobedience of the Khalifa is actually haram because now you are disobeying the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll stop here, but just to remind about these stories, so we leave with this understanding when we are reading these stories. All these stories point towards one key idea here, which is Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu was implementing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over the people. He was a Khalifa, he was Amir al-Mu'mineen, and at the same time, he was very careful about making sure that he is fulfilling the task Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained on him. And that's what the Muslim Ummah needs today. That's what the world needs today. So the people will be out of the oppression, Muslim or non-Muslim alike. So we'll stop here, inshallah. If there is any questions or comments about the subject that we covered, inshallah, I'll try to answer. We'll talk about, inshallah, about his kindness towards the animals, and also we'll talk about, inshallah, next week regarding the knowledge and the scholars, how they were taken care of